Y'all need to know this. We knew each other as kids. Grade school. Okay. And her folks and my folks were good friends. And they would come over on Friday nights. And the grown-ups would play rook upstairs. And the kids would go down. And I have a younger brother, 3 years younger than me. And we would go down and play church.
In the basement.
Huh?
In the basement.
In the basement. Yeah, we'd go downstairs in the basement and play church. And Julie always insisted on being the preacher. And so I had to be the song leader. And my brother, because he was the youngest, had to be the sinner. Because you can't play church without a good sinner. And so he was a sinner. And I had, my parents got us an old mattress. And we had it on the floor down there. And so my brother would come forward and to be baptized. And I'd throw him down on that mattress and he'd bounce right back up. To this day, he says, I've been baptized 200 times. So, one of these Friday nights, Julie preached and I led the singing. And my brother's supposed to come forward, and he stood there like this. He was mad about something. I don't know. He wasn't budging. He wasn't moving. And I had seen my dad's a preacher. I'd seen my dad do this. He'd stop the invitation song. He'd say, "Now there's people here, you know." So I said, "There's people in this audience, and you know who you are, and you need to come forward." And so I'm going to sing one more verse. You know, we sang another verse. He just stood. I looked at her and I said, "We're going to have a business meeting. We're going to withdraw from him." Oh, shoot. All right. Turn to Genesis 50, the last section in Genesis. Let me share this with you. Genesis 50, beginning in verse 15. Genesis 50, 15. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, What if Joseph bears a grudge against us and he pays us back in full for all the wrongs that we did to him? So they sent a message to Joseph saying, Your father charged before he died, saying, Thus you shall say to Joseph, Please forgive, I beg you, the transgression of your brothers and their sin, for they did you wrong. And now please forgive the transgression of the servants of the God of your father. And Joseph, what? Wept when they spoke to him. Joseph broke down. Then his brothers came and fell down before him and said, We are your servants. But Joseph said to them, Do not be afraid. Am I in God's place? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, in order to bring about this present result, to preserve many people alive. So therefore, do not be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. So he comforted them. He spoke kindly to them. Now Joseph stayed in Egypt, he and his father's house, and Joseph lived 110 years. Verse 24, Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely take care of you and bring you up from this land to the land which he promised on oath to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, God will surely take care of you, and you shall carry my bones up from here. So Joseph died at the age of 110 and was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. And so the first book of Scripture comes to a close. Now, there's several things that strike me about the Joseph story. Of all of the biographical information presented in Genesis, and I hope you understand, Genesis is largely biographical. It tells the story of Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the sons of Jacob, Joseph. That's Genesis. And the amazing thing about the Joseph story is that in the book of Genesis, more space is devoted to Joseph than any of these others. Why? I don't know. Maybe God knew we needed to hear this. I don't know. But we certainly all know the tragedy of his story. The amazing thing, after Joseph went through everything Joseph went through, Joseph never took his eyes off the power and the promises and the providence of God. Never. You see that 3 times in this reading. Verse 20, as for you, you meant it against me, but God meant it for good. And verse 24, but God will take care of you. Verse 25, God will take care of you. He says it 3 times. Now, it is easy to read this Joseph story and focus so much on the information that we lose the emotion. Joseph is a real person. And Joseph had feelings, and Joseph had emotions just like the rest of us. In fact, we read in verse 17, Joseph broke down, he wept. And as I look at the Joseph story and I go through it, the thought comes into my mind, I just wonder if there were times in Joseph's life when he just wanted to say, I don't know how much more of this I can handle. Because sometimes that's where we all are. I mean, every time Joseph takes a step forward, it's like he gets knocked back 3. And how does Joseph make any sense out of what didn't make any sense? And the answer is the same way you and I have to do. Look at what he said in verse 20 to his brothers. You meant it for evil, but God took the evil and turned it into something good. Joseph believed that somehow, some way, God would make everything right. And he did. He did. And so when you come to the end of the book of Genesis, and Joseph dies at 110, Joseph has no idea how this Canaan promise that God made to his great-grandfather, Joseph has no idea how's God going to do this. He has no idea. But he believed. He believed that somehow, some way, in his time, God's going to make all this work. But I find it interesting at the end of the book of Genesis, when Joseph knows he's going to die, he says, I tell you what, when it happens, whenever it happens, I want you to dig up my bones and what? Carry them to Canaan. He says, you're not leaving me behind in the land of Egypt. It's an amazing ending to this first book. Now, I say all that to say this. I cringe when I hear people say, well, God won't give you more than you can handle. Because I have a hard time reconciling that with real life. It sounds biblical. It ranks up there next, cleanliness is next to godliness, ranks right there. But it doesn't come to terms with the reality of the kind of grief we're reading about in this book. I mean, I read about Job. Job says it was so bad, I wish I had never been born. And have you ever read the words of Paul in 2 Corinthians 1 and verse 8? 2 Corinthians 1 and verse 8? Have we just bypassed this? 2 Corinthians 1:8. For we do not want you to be unaware, brethren, of our affliction which came to us in Asia. How bad was it? Notice the stair step. That we were burdened excessively beyond our strength, so that we despaired even of life. Paul says it was too heavy. The New International Version says we were under great pressure beyond our ability to endure. The English Standard Version, we were utterly burdened beyond our strength. Burdened beyond your strength. You ever been burdened beyond your strength? You ever prayed, Lord, this is too heavy for me. I can't handle this. So God may give you more than you can handle. Maybe that's the whole point. Because that's where faith comes into play. So look at what Paul says in verse 8 of chapter 1 of 2 Corinthians. Why would Paul say that? Why would Paul say this was too heavy? This was beyond us. This was beyond our strength. Why would he say that? He answers that in verse 9. Indeed, we had the sentence of death within ourselves, so that we would not trust in ourselves, but we would trust in God who raises the dead. That's it. God may give you more than you can handle because he doesn't want you to handle it. 1 Peter 5 and verse 7. Cast all of your burdens upon him, for he will take care of you. Why would I need to do that if I'm perfectly capable of handling everything? Psalm 55:22. Cast your burdens on the Lord, he will sustain you. Why would I have to do that if I can carry it? Matthew 11:28-30. Come unto me all who are weary, listen to the words, and heavy laden. Why would I need to do that if I can carry it? It's like this. Have you ever seen a kid? Maybe dad's going on a trip of some kind, and dad's got his suitcase all packed, and it's a big suitcase. And this little kid wants to help his dad so much, and the little kid grabs the handle, and the little kid's dragging the suitcase. It's too heavy for it. It's too big. He can't do it. He wants to so bad, but he can't do it. And so dad comes along and says, hey, let me help you with that. Let me help lift that load. Let me help carry that. Because it's too heavy for you. I've lived 68 years. Now come on, y'all are supposed to just be gasp at that. Let's try that again. I've lived 68 years. Now, my self-esteem is restored. I feel better about myself. But I tell you what. Thanks. You told all my secrets in that class, didn't you? Great. Here's what I've seen in life. I have seen life just literally knock you to your knees. And we are the kid. We are the kid trying to handle baggage that we cannot carry. And sometimes we think I'm more holy. You know, if I just get a stiff upper lip and pretend that I can handle this, I got it all under control. No, you don't. And maybe it's time somebody says it. It's okay to admit there's some things you can't handle. The loss of a child is more than you can handle. Marital infidelity is more than you can handle. Cancer, more than you can handle. Caregiving, more than you can handle. Rejection, betrayal, more than you can handle. People lying about you, more than you can handle. Child abuse, more than you can handle. The loss of a spouse, more than you can handle. Sexual assault, more than you can handle. Grief, loss, death, disease, prodigal kids, broken relationships, tragedies, more than you can handle. You can't carry that. We had a school shooting in Nashville. Was it about 3 years ago at Covenant School? Yeah, about 3 years ago. And I was speaking in Nashville that Sunday morning, right after that, and it was a beautiful March day, spring day, and we left church, and Julie says, "I want to go over to Covenant School." So it wasn't far away, so we drove over there and parked, and there was this makeshift memorial, as we all see on the news when things like this happen, and there's teddy bears, and there's just hearts, and there's just all kinds of people, flowers, and people just bringing all this stuff, and there were probably 75 people that were kind of milling around. Police presence was there but everybody's milling around, and it's quiet, and it's solemn, and people are crying, and it's just moving. Nobody's saying a word because it's so somber. And we walked around for a little bit and looked at some of the memorials, looked at the pictures of the 6 people who had been shot and killed, 3 children. And we're standing there, and there was little lady standing over to the side, and she was just taken with grief. And she said, out loud, broke the silence. She said, "Could somebody here lead us in prayer?" And Julie spoke up and pointed to me and said, "He will." She volunteered me, which is fine. And so we didn't know these people. They didn't know us. There were moms and dads and grandparents and parents and kids and men and women and black and white and Hispanic, and it didn't make it. Suddenly, nothing mattered. Nothing mattered. And we just all got in a circle and held hands and prayed, because that's what you do when you don't know what to do. That's what you do. And we prayed for all of those who were involved, and we prayed for our city, and we prayed for these families who were hurting, and we prayed even for the shooter's family, and we just poured out our hearts and prayed, and afterwards everybody's just kind of hugging and because it's too heavy. Things like that are just too heavy. And maybe that's the whole point of this. God doesn't expect you to handle it. He expects you to hand it over to Him. Because He doesn't want you relying on your strength because you're not strong enough. And if I keep walking around thinking God won't give me more than I can handle, I'm in for a heavy laden disappointment. You ever talk to parents who've lost a child? I have. What am I supposed to tell parents who've lost a child? Well, God won't give you more than you can handle. Or about a family whose young mom dies of cancer, or children who've been molested, or spouses who have been abused. God won't give you more than you can handle. You know how shallow that sounds? To people who are awash in guttural grief? I mean, we're talking about a level of pain that I hope none of you ever have to go through, but some of you have. Now, invariably somebody says, well, what about 1 Corinthians 10:13? Wait, 1 Corinthians 10:13. Okay, 1 Corinthians 10:13. Somebody read it. First Corinthians 10:13. I don't care. Somebody read it.
No temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man. And God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it.
What word is repeated 3 times in that verse?
Temptation.
Temptation. This verse is about temptation to sin. Temptation to sin. This verse is reminding us that Satan is like a mad dog on a wild dog on a leash. He's chained. Heaven has reined him in. There's only so far he can go. Now, you have the choice. You can go over to where he is. If you want to go that direction, you can go there. You have the freedom to do that. You can go over and pet that dog. But he's going to bite you. And there's going to be consequences. But you don't have to go over there. You can go the other direction. You can escape. This verse is talking about the temptation to sin. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Joseph stuff. We're talking about Job stuff. Job, who said, "It hurts so much, I wish I had never been born." So, how do you deal with this? I'm going to leave you with one thing, because Julie says I only have 20 minutes. I'm going to just leave you with one thing. You got to focus on what you know, not what you don't know. And that's what Joseph did. None of what happened to Joseph made any sense. Nothing. If Joseph was just looking at each individual injustice, it made no sense. But look how God unfolded the story. He does the same thing with Job. Neither of them had any idea that the decisions they made in regard to faith would have repercussions for generations to come, hundreds and thousands of years to come. That here we would be in the year 2026 standing around and talking about their stories. They had no idea. They couldn't fathom that. But neither can you. Neither can you. I think of that verse in Isaiah chapter 64 and verse 8. We sing about it all the time. Isaiah 64 and verse 8. O Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay. You are the potter. And we are the work of your hand. I love the Japanese tradition of kintsugi, where they would take pieces of broken pottery, and instead of just throwing them away, they would take the pieces of broken pottery and put them together, back together with fillings of gold. And what is amazing with that is when they would put the pieces of pottery back together with these fillings of gold, the cracks don't just disappear. The gold fills the cracks with the beauty that the piece of pottery would have never had otherwise. And the gold filling actually makes it stronger than ever. Twice a year, Julie and I do a thing called Thrive for women who have suffered abuse. Sometimes it's abuse as a child or abuse in their younger years. Sometimes it's abuse in a marriage, some horrific abusive situations. And we do it in 1st of April and the 1st of November. We rent a large house on a lake, very picturesque, with windows looking out over the water, and it's just beautiful. And so far, 130 women have come through this program, I think. And it's 4 days and 3 nights, very intensive, but it's very, very helpful. But one of the things we do now is on Saturday afternoon we do the kintsugi method. We get the women to go outside, and each one gets this beautiful blue bowl, and they each get a mallet. And then one at a time, they take the mallet and hit the bowl, and the bowl just breaks in 4 or 5 pieces. And then we give them gold glue. Not real gold, but gold-looking glue. And then they start putting the pieces back together, and the message is, this is your life. This is your life. And the gold glue represents God's grace. And so when they get it all put back together, bonded back together, they get to take the bowl home with them, and every time they look at it, they're reminded, they see the cracks. But the gold glue fills the cracks as representation of this is what God's grace has done for you. It has filled the cracks of your life. And it's amazing to watch the response of these women who do that. By the way, at Thrive every time, and it doesn't cost these women anything, we have a donor. And so if they can get to Nashville, we take care of everything. But there's this girl named Lottie, and she's got this song out. And so we play the song Colder. We play the song Colder. And Julie tells kind of the backstory of this girl named Lottie and shares who she is. And we play that song, and I mean, it is one of the most moving moments of that whole weekend. And it changes lives. Thank you. But this is a picture of you and me. This is a picture of what God has done for all of us. By His grace, we can be made even stronger. And God is the only one who can take our lives and put all the pieces back together. Now, you and I have two choices. When we face more than we can handle, we can throw up our hands and surrender to the enemy, and we can just say, hey, life isn't fair, God isn't there, I give up, I quit. Or we can throw up our hands and surrender to Him. But this kind of surrendering is not easy, because this kind of surrendering is not giving in, it's giving up. It's giving up control. It's giving up worry. It's giving up me trying to figure it all out on my own. And it's giving up all that weight because it's too heavy for me to carry. So I can get stuck in my heart, or I can get renewed in my heart, one of the two. The question is, when God puts something in front of you that's too hard for you to handle, what are you going to do with it? I can't answer all the questions on human suffering. I've written a couple of books about it, but I'll just tell you, I can't answer the questions. People always want to know why this, why that. Why do some people who don't deserve babies have them and others can't? And I don't know. Why do people hurt other people intentionally? Why do kids die? What I've learned is I have to give up this craving to know all the answers and answer all the questions. And what I do know is that His grace is sufficient for me, and that He will walk with me through the valley of the shadows. What I do know is sometimes He may give me more than I can handle so that I can hand it off to Him. Let Him handle it. What I do know, He will always show up. What I do know, He will always be with me. What I do know, He will always be faithful. What I do know, He will heal me in ways I can't even fathom. And what I do know is about the peace that passes understanding. And what I do know is that He will walk with me through the valley of the shadows of hard. So maybe as you look at your life in certain seasons that you have faced, and maybe sometimes you feel like you've just been given more than you can handle, maybe that's the whole point. Stop trying to carry what you cannot carry. Come unto me, Jesus said, all who are weary and heavy laden. Give it to me, and I will give you rest. Thanks for listening. Did I do 20 minutes? We good?